The sea was quiet that morning, the kind of eerie, expectant quiet that makes you feel like the world's holding its breath before a storm, and you're the only fool who hasn't checked the radar. I was in the middle of my kitchen routine, sipping 2 strong coffee, staring at the marina through the window, thinking about how lucky I was to own a boat like Sea Haven, when my phone vibrated so hard it nearly slid into the sink. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but then U.S. Coast Guard popped up beneath the digits, just enough to punch a hole in my gut before I even picked up. Commander Reyes, Coast Guard. Are you the owner of a white Pershing 9X yacht named Sea Haven? My brain skipped a beat. I got that cold sweat that tells you whatever comes next, you're not ready. Yes, I managed slow and steady. What happened? He didn't ease me in. We found your vessel drifting about 4 miles offshore. No captain, no registered crew, just a group of women apparently intoxicated, disoriented, hosting some kind of party. I gripped the counter so hard I thought it might snap. Nobody had my permission, and yet someone had thrown a full-blown bash on my boat. Reyes continued, his voice so dry you could have struck a match on it. They claimed they're co-owners, said they were invited. Sound familiar? Of course it did. I didn't even need him to finish. I already knew the suspects. 2 names, Linda and Brenda. Just 2 days before, I'd been mindlessly scrolling Instagram when a video stopped me cold. A sparkly, over-filtered clip with a soundtrack straight out of the influencer starter pack. There in the middle of my boat were a dozen women dancing, swilling champagne, and doing their best Real Housewives impression. And smack in the center, impossible to miss, were Linda and Brenda, identical twins, in matching sky blue floral dresses, bleached hair, thick eyeliner, the kind of self-satisfied grins you only see on people who've never been told no. I'd met them once at a neighborhood cookout. They were loud, pushy, and allergic to the idea of boundaries. That day they'd made a show of flirting, not so subtly fishing for a boat invitation. I'd smiled, politely declined, and assumed that was the end of it. Turns out for them, no just meant try again with more audacity. So picture this. The twins and their crowd of peacocks parading around my boat, spraying champagne, taking selfies. Linda twerking on my captain's chair, while Brenda live-streamed to her 100 or so enablers. It was like someone broke into your house, held a frat party, and then used your toothbrush for good measure. I called the marina in a rage, demanding answers. Rye the dockmaster sounded as confused as me. He checked the security cams, and sure enough, there were the twins marching down the dock, dragging enough gear to supply a cruise waving my key like they'd earned it. Now here's the twist. Last month, I'd hired a cleaning crew, and they'd left a spare key in the storage drawer, supposed to be temporary, supposed to be returned. It wasn't. That was all the opening Linda and Brenda needed. So I waited for the Coast Guard to bring the boat back in. When I saw it, look, I nearly cried. There were lipstick-stained cups floating in ice buckets, champagne bottles rolling across the deck, and enough glitter stuck to the leather seats to supply a craft store. Someone had drawn a heart on the navigation panel with eyeliner. And there they were, Linda and Brenda, sitting on the bow, like they'd just conquered Europe, dresses, rumpled faces, smeared Brenda waving a half-eaten cracker, Linda clutching a selfie stick. They greeted me like I was a doorman. There he is, the captain himself, Brenda slurred. Don't worry, boo. We kept her safe. I bit my tongue. You stole my boat, I said, voice low. Borrowed. Brenda countered, her fake innocence so thick you could have poured it on pancakes. You said we could have a girls' day on the water. I shook my head. No, I didn't. Linda rolled her eyes. God, don't be so uptight. It was just a party. No one got hurt. Their friends didn't even look embarrassed. One was asleep, another was scrolling through her phone. I told them they'd committed criminal trespassing, vandalized my property, endangered everyone on board. Brenda scoffed. You act like we sank the Titanic. I realized right then anger wouldn't work. They fed off drama. I needed a different kind of lesson, the kind you don't forget. So I went quiet, plotted my revenge, and by that evening I was installing upgrades, remote control, anchor, GPS, tracking motion sensors, fuel lockout, and a speaker system I could run from my phone. You know, just your average don't mess with me package. Next, I waited. Sure enough, the twins started hinting at a comeback on Instagram, tagging my location, boasting about more yacht days to come. So I baited the trap, posted a story saying I was out of town boat, just sitting there, shame nobody's using it. It didn't take long, they fell for it faster than a cat for tuna. That Saturday they were again strutting down the dock, same dresses, new crowd, blasting music, dragging coolers and shrimp trays. I watched everything from a rented fishing boat, sunglasses on, playing it cool. As soon as they boarded, I triggered the anchor release. The yacht began to drift slow at first, just enough to slip past the marina's safety line. For the next hour, I let them have their fun. Music, selfies, drinks, the whole circus. Nobody noticed the marina shrinking behind them. Nobody checked the GPS because I'd disabled it. Then the complaints started. Where's the signal? I've got no bars. Why isn't this working? I was grinning so hard my face hurt. By the time they realized they were adrift, the mood had turned from yacht queens to shipwrecked extras. Then for the main event, I played my pre-recorded message over the yacht speakers. Hello, ladies. Enjoying the sea screams, shrieks. Linda spun around looking for the voice. You're probably wondering why nothing works. My voice echoed, why you've been drifting for an hour and a half. This isn't a prank. This is a lesson. Brenda nearly fainted. A couple of their friends tried to wave down a rescue with a beach towel. Another used her compact mirror to signal passing planes. The panic was real. Linda barked orders. Brenda sobbed, the guests argued, and one woman tried to drive the yacht by spinning the wheel like a Price is Right contestant. Nobody could figure out a thing. The ocean, always ready for a show, sent a gust of wind that knocked over the champagne tower. Glass shattered. Tears followed. They realized, maybe for the first time in their lives, that they weren't in control and the world didn't care about their excuses. I let them stew in it, just long enough for the lesson to sink in. Then I called the Coast Guard, gave them the coordinates, and watched as the rescue boat showed up. I didn't stick around for the reunion, but word traveled fast. By the time I got home, social media was ablaze, clips of Brenda crying, Linda yelling yacht Karens trending nationwide. The comments were brutal. One guy wrote, "Finally justice for the sea." Another should have let them float all the way to Cuba. The next week was a blur. Their Instagram pages went private, then silent, then gone. But that was just the start, because the evidence was airtight. Videos, witness statements, Coast Guard reports, marina security footage. I filed charges for trespassing and property damage. Their lawyer sent a message offering to settle amicably and pay for cleaning. I said no. Easy wasn't the point, accountability was. It wasn't just about my boat, it was about boundaries. About people who think the world's a prop for their next reel. The twins ended up banned from every marina within 5 cities. Their faces, flushed and furious, went out in the Boaters Association newsletter as a warning. They tried to play the victim online, blaming me for a setup, crying on camera, claiming harassment. Nobody bought it. A former party guest leaked screenshots of them bragging about stealing my boat, making fun of the idea that men never fight back. Yeah, well, this time I did. The story blew up bigger than I could have dreamed. Local news did a segment. Neighbors stopped me on the street. The old, "Oh, that's just Linda and Brenda being themselves" routine was gone. People finally understood kindness isn't weakness, and letting things slide just means you'll get trampled next time. Weeks later, as I prepped Sea Haven for a solo ride, a teenager stopped me. "You're the guy from the Karen boat story, right? That was epic. He wanted to know what happened after they drifted." I smiled. Let them float. Sometimes the ocean teaches lessons land can't. He laughed, and I watched him go, feeling lighter than I had in ages. That's the real ending, not just revenge, but closure. The boat's clean, the locks are tight, and the ocean's quiet again. But every time I look out over the water, I remember them scrambling, arguing their egos, melting away with the tide. Next time someone asks if they can borrow my boat, I'll just smile and say, only if you know how to swim. So what do you think? Was I wrong to let karma take the wheel? Or is there something to be said for letting the sea sort things out? Drop your thoughts below because honestly, I'm still deciding if justice was poetic enough or if I should have let them float just a little bit longer.